All right, everybody. Today we are talking about oats. We're looking at some healthy breakfast alternatives, and we're going to start with looking at oats. I'm going to cook oats 3 different ways for you today. We're going to start off with making some granola. Very simple recipe, really delicious. And we're going to do that first because we're going to use that later to use as a topping for some oatmeal and then for some overnight oats. All right, so let's get started with our granola. Let's get that in the oven and get that cooking. All right, so let's take a look at our mise en place. All right, so set up over here, I've got 3 cups of oats, and I'm using old-fashioned or rolled oats, okay? 3 different varieties that you can find in the store. You can find steel-cut oats, the old-fashioned rolled oats, or quick oats. Very simple. The difference with the 3 all comes down to processing, okay? Steel-cut oats are the least processed oat. They're literally just cut in a machine with steel blades. Rolled oats are actually rolled and flattened and steamed, which helps to make them cook a little bit faster. And then the quick oats are processed an additional step further, and because of that, they cook the quickest. However, because they cook the quickest, they also tend to be a little bit more mushy, right? A little soft. They're softer. So the steel cut are going to take longer to cook, right? So steel cut, again, the least processed, but they take longer to cook, sometimes by as much as 20 to 30 minutes. Rolled oats are going to cook a little bit faster because they do have a little extra processing, but they're still pretty close to the original grain. And then those quick cooking oats are going to cook really quickly, but not as fast, as like an instant oatmeal. Okay, so what I have here is I have 3 cups of our rolled oats, 1 cup of sliced almonds. I have a half a cup of oil right over here. So I'm using a blended oil. You can use canola oil, olive oil, any kind of a neutral flavored oil. I have a 1/4 cup of honey, a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Now you could use a half cup of either or. I like to split them up because of the difference in flavor. It just gives a little more flavor to the overall granola. And then here I have 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of salt. All right. You might be thinking salt, right? Is it supposed to be something that's a little bit sweeter? It is, but salt is going to help add balance, and it also helps to really wake up all of the flavors and brighten them. All right. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take our oil. We're going to add our oil to our bowl. I'm going to take my honey and my maple syrup. Get all of that into the bowl. And we're using a pure maple syrup, right? An all-natural maple syrup. Really delicious flavor, less processed, not as much added sugars. Flavor is going to be much more of what the maple syrup would taste like straight from the tree. I'm going to add in our seasoning. All right, and now we're going to whisk that together. All right, now, when whisking, we're adding energy, which is going to start to soften or kind of melt down the honey just a little bit. All right, and once this is really, really well incorporated, you can see this coming together. We're going to go ahead and add our almonds and our oats. Just going to toss those in. And now using a spatula and using the sides of the bowl, we're just going to kind of turn them over and really coat all of the oats and the almonds, get them all nice and mixed and coated with that syrup and that honey. And just kind of keep working it around until it's really, really well incorporated. All right, scraping all the way down to the bottom, getting any of that honey off that might have gotten stuck. All right, now once this is completely coated, we're going to come over, and I have a sheet pan that I've already prepared with a piece of parchment paper. Now, before placing the parchment paper down, I actually sprayed the pan first and then put the paper down. This way the paper doesn't slide. Okay, and now I'm just going to transfer that mixture right to that sheet pan. Again, scrape it all out. Paid for all of it. We want to make sure we use all of it. Right? No waste. And now we're just going to spread that out on a pan. Now, I have an oven set to 300 degrees. And we're going to bake this. We're going to bake our granola at about 300 degrees for probably about a half hour, right? And we're going to watch it. We're going to look for color. We're going to get some really beautiful smells coming off of this, right? You're going to smell all the toastiness of the oats and the nuts, right? It's going to be really, really nice. But as it goes in the oven, we're going to come to it about 10 to 12 minutes after it goes in the oven to give it a stir so that we kind of turn everything over and we get everything really nicely and evenly baked. All right to the middle rack of our oven. Gonna set my timer, and we'll come back to that in just a minute. All right, so our timer went off. Been our first 12 minutes. Let's go ahead and pull that out. Smells really good. Starting to smell some toastiness. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna kind of turn this over. Be very careful. The pan will be hot, right? So always make sure you have your side towels with you. I just want to kind of turn that over and then flatten it back out again. Nice even layer. And then this is going to go back into the oven for about another 16 to 18 minutes until it's really, really toasty. All right, so flatten that out. Now we can go ahead, put that back in. You want that nice even layer. You don't want to have too many big clumps, otherwise you'll have spots that don't really bake and dry out, which is what we're looking for. Back into the oven. Set that timer. All right, so our timer has gone off and granola is ready to come out of the oven. All right, so you can see the color on this now. It's much more, get that golden brown color, GBD, golden brown delicious. I want to come in here, I'm just going to kind of push this together a little bit. So the next step in this process is to let this sit and cool, right? And this is where patience comes into play, right? It smells delicious. You're going to want to dive in. You're not going to want to. This is really, really hot right now. All right. You've got that hot honey and syrup going on in there. So definitely not going to be eating this just yet. But we are going to let this now cool, and as it cools, it continues to dry. And what will happen is it'll get nice and crispy. So we're going to kind of, I like to just push it together a little bit. That's going to help me get some nice, really big, kind of chunky pieces. All right, so once I do that, the thing you have to do now is just let it sit. All right, so you want to find a nice place where it can just sit and kind of just really cool off, dry, and come together, and then we'll come back and take a look at it once it's ready, and we'll show you how to finish it up. All right, so now it's been a little over an hour. The granola is fully set, fully cool. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna put on a pair of gloves. All right, because this is a ready-to-eat food. All right, so we wanna make sure that it's staying protected. All right, so you'll see here, I can break this off in sections right now, okay? And how big the chunks are that you make now is really up to you. All right, you get to decide just how big you want this to be. So really just start, you can hear it, the crackling. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. Really good snacks if you wanna leave just some big pieces. And you can see all of that there. I have 2 containers. You can use things like mason jars, work really well, especially the ones with the lids that kind of stay on. Quart containers are fine as well. Really, any kind of airtight container is going to work. I'm just going to take that, throw that away. Continue to break that up. And this is going to be a nice snack, a good topping for oatmeal or for parfaits or acai bowls. All right, really anything. You can add a little crunch to. I'm just going to break that up. I like to have some bigger chunks. That's my preference. But really, it does come down to however you like to eat your granola. All right, so you could buy granola in the store. The problem, typically, is that granola in the store, you have to be very careful about the sugar content. You have to be careful about what exactly is in the granola. Preservatives, sweeteners, things like that. So when you can make your own, you have more control over exactly what you're putting in and then eventually what you're eating. And that's going to help you just have that healthier diet. Something that's going to be a little more nutritious for you. And definitely something that will taste really good if you make it taste good yourself. So, all right. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to fill up these containers. I hope you guys try this. Again, this is a blank slate, right? You could add much more to this. You could add dried fruit. You can add chocolate pieces if you wanted to add like chocolate chips. Any kind of nuts that you like, any kind of dried fruits, anything like that is going to be good. And we'll add a lot of flavor. But at the end of the day, you have your granola. All right, enjoy.